I have my copy of the U.S. Bill of Rights that says I have a right to petition the
Microphone.
government for redress for grievances. It doesn't say 5 or 10 minutes, but I'll try to keep the 10 minutes. Thank you. I have copies of my
Mary,
address.
microphone.
I have copies of my address if anybody would like a copy. I also have a few copies of the cancer survey that was done after the SECO nuclear power plant in California was dismantled, and they've done this survey over a 20-year period and found out that 4,319 fewer deaths occurred after the close of that plant. So it's about what we lost in the Iraq War, thanks to that nuclear power plant operating. And this is basically a generic permit that treats a technology that German government engineers, and they're considered the best in the world. They have said that this technology cannot be made safe under any conditions. Yet this permit treats this facility as if it were any sewer plant or small industrial discharge. 2, Duke Power already owns the Catawba River on the eastern side of York County, and now you're willing to give them the Broad River on the western side of the county, allowing them to lose 3 out of every 4 gallons of water they take from this small river due to evaporation, and returning 90 to 95-degree water back into the river, thus affecting river life and downstream water users from Union to the Atlantic Ocean. 3, this permit, and I've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, gives Duke sole responsibility to self-report with a laughable $25,000 penalty for willfully doctoring their own test results. No jail time has ever been given for breaking these rules in South Carolina, and never will be. This is a company whose profits were $1.7 billion in 2011. Their CEO made $8.7 million last year, and one executive was given a $44 million golden parachute when he left the company. I don't think a $25,000 fine is the answer for cheating on test results for this company. 4, this permit does not take into account the temperature differences between impounded lake water and free-flowing river water. Contained water, or drought contingency ponds, absorbs the heat from the sun more readily than free-flowing water. As temperatures in the southeast continue to rise, so will the temperatures of the contained water. This will have an effect on the ability to cool the reactors with this lake water. 6, yearly flow mean, as this lady said earlier, an old school teacher, and I'm an old math teacher too, seems to have been skewed by taking out the lowest flow months and treating them separately from the rest of the year. This changes the mean flow trigger for Duke to start taking out 47 million gallons of water per day. This is creative math at its worst. Mean, which is the average, is not always the most likely mode, especially when you drop the 4 lowest numbers. 8, will groundwater be used to supplement when levels of the Broad drop to a certain level? If so, what is that level, and how much are they allowed to take out? Will groundwater be used to supplement drought contingency ponds? People around this plant have wells that will be affected. I know that's a different permit too, that's the microscope again, but it's something that the people who live in the area must be concerned about. 9, this permit gives Duke the right to protect their equipment and investment at the expense of people who live around the plant and downstream from it. A bypass or non-compliance does not have to be reported to DHEC for 24 hours. That's section L4B, and in section M1A1 allows a complete bypass if it is unavoidable to prevent loss of life personal injury, or severe property damage without a penalty for the bypass, a complete bypass into the river. 10. In Part 3A1, Duke is permitted to discharge from outfall serial 001 low-level radioactive waste into the Broad River. In Section VA8, the responsibility for the discharge for the radioactive components of the discharge is delegated to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the same people who are pushing nuclear power. You are responsible for protecting the surface water of this state, not the NRC.
That's right.
11. This permit allows Duke to use composite samples to enable them to pass pollution tests. The test results are definitely affected by this method. It will be the equivalent of someone having a contaminated well, and then you come in, test everybody's well in the neighborhood, averaging the results together, passing the test, and telling the well owner that his well passed the test and is not contaminated. 12. In Section V2, F, 2F, B, and C, again we see some creative math when the 24 average flow of withdrawal is measured after screen wash water is removed, although in the definition it is part of that. It states the withdrawal rates of NCS of the primary section and the drought contingency section of the river intake is measured after the removal of the screen water. 13, Section 2N, 1 and 2, A and D, list ways for the permittee, Duke, to avoid an action for noncompliance, and listing the affirmative defenses to any DHEC actions against them. I suggest that it is not DHEC's responsibility to inform companies about how to avoid consequences of violating their permit. 14, this permit does not take into account the Lockhart power plant just downstream from Duke's facility and the detrimental impact it will have on operation and future expansion of this hydroelectric clean energy facility. 15, this permit does not address the Rocky Shoal spider lily population living in the Broad River downstream from this facility. Excuse me. 17, this permit does not adequately address the impact of Union, South Carolina's water supply and their intake just 21 miles downstream from this plant. I have grandchildren living in Union. With hot water, heavy metals, including lead, cooling tower blowdown, water treatment waste, floor and equipment waste, laboratory waste, diesel fuel oil, area sump wastewater, and radioactive materials, all permitted and legal to dump in the river. Union citizens have a right to be concerned about their drinking water. 18, this permit, Section VE8, allows Duke to notify the affected downstream water treatment plants of plant upsets, bypasses, or other system failures which have the potential to affect water quality and the quality of their drinking water just as soon as possible, with no actual time limit to do so. We're talking about nuclear waste in this waste stream, and there is no time limit in this permit for reporting this to the people who are drinking the water. 20, devices measuring flows of pollution are allowed in this permit to have an error of 10%. You know, we get better than that when they're testing who's going to vote for who. It's usually like a 3 or 4% differential. This is Section 2J1B1. 21. According to DHEC, this permit is in compliance with the Appalachian Council of Governments Water Quality Management Plan, the 208 plan, and that it complies with the anti-degradation requirements of the state water quality standards. I suggest that if it truly does comply with these documents, then we can all throw these documents in the trash today because they are useless in protecting the precious waters of our state and our region. I got this much for it. Give me another minute. I'm going to finish it. I should not have to remind you, I'm going to finish this. I should not have to remind you, those who are responsible for the water, that you are those who are responsible for the water in our state, and that there is very little fresh water on our planet. The first scientists to look for when they go to other planets is water, because they know life cannot exist without it. The polar ice caps were a tremendous reservoir of fresh water, but they're melting at an alarming rate. Excuse me. Please go away. Most of us remember the poem that we learned in high school about a man dying on his boat in the ocean. Water, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. When we have such abundant energy sources in this state, such as water power, wind power, tidal power, solar power, why would we destroy the drinkable water that we have? I beg you to do the job that you thought you would do on your first day at DHEC. Protect the environment and the waters of this state. Thank you. One more thing. The German engineers were correct. The German engineers were correct. This technology cannot be made safe under any condition. Thank you.